everybody? Star Wars Dad back for another video. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. Part of the reason is because I'm going to be going out of town, so I'm not going to have as much time to make content with gameplay. But I thought I would do a little video about the 5 decks that I'm most excited for thus far from the next set. So the first one, of course, is Boba Cunning. Now, of these 5, I'm the least excited for this deck, not because of the deck itself, but just because everybody and their brother is going to be playing this deck. So I think all of us are going to be tired of seeing this deck after a while. So I updated my recent list by adding in the 4 LOM and the Zuckuss. I just took out the Gamorrean Guard. I'm not even sure if you need it anymore. I mean, you could probably add it back in for one of these units, like the Wookiee maybe. But I just felt like I don't even know if you need it anymore with the ambush with LOM and Zuckuss. And that's kind of why it was in there in the first place. It was just like a mediocre Sentinel on turn 3, but now you have LOM into Zuckuss, which is an amazing curve that just helps you close the game out in this deck. I mean, this deck is just nuts. Like, if you look at this deck, I mean, there's so many weapons. Like, you start off with Greedo, and then you have Bazine Natal to hand disruption early. You have Body Rook for hand disruption early. There's a ton of hand disruption. Then you have like amazing 1 resource events. You have Sheep First, which is great against aggro. You have McClunky, which is good against aggro and mid range. You have Swoop Down, which is just amazing in this deck with Fett's Fire Spray and Xanadu Blood. And that's why I put the Xanadu Blood in here because we're playing Swoop Down. So I wanted to have a couple of units that benefit from that card later in the game, just to like air raid their ground units. I mean, then you have Surprise Strike. Dr. Evazan is very good against certain aggro matchups. The Wookiee is a turn 2, 3/3. I mean, yeah, they get to exhaust one of our units, but I don't think that really affects us. Like, I don't think we care that much because we're going to be exhausting so many of their units and waylaying them that we're just like, yeah, okay. I mean, you get that one situation with the Wookiee. And then the Boba Fett's armor is just absolutely disgusting. You attach it to a non-vehicle. If attached unit is Boba Fett and damage would be dealt to him, prevent 2 of that damage. So you make the turn 2 Boba Fett a 5/7 that takes 2 less damage every time. That is actually crazy, because that -2 damage really does add up. And then, of course, we're playing like Waylay and Cunning is just absolutely bonkers. I didn't put Tobias in here. I just felt like 4 LOM Zuckuss is just better. But I'm sure people are going to be playing Tobias. I mean, this deck is just crazy. Like, just get ready. You're going to see this deck so much. And then in this sideboard, I have 1 copy of Final Showdown, which is ready every unit that you control. So after you attacked it with like 3 or 4 units, then you just ready them all again and just win the game. So that's good against certain matchups. And then Evacuate is return each non-leader unit to its owner's hand. So Evacuate is just like very good if things are getting out of your control in some matchups. Just like a good safety net card. Similar to what Cunning does. Just kind of slows everything down. And, you know, gonna be very, very good in certain matchups. Especially if they have expensive things down, like several expensive things potentially, then it makes it very hard for them to rebuild their board. But yeah, that's the first deck. Deck is crazy. Deck number 2 that I'm excited about is Luke. I think Luke gets some really cool cards. The first one that stands out to me is Gray Squadron. Gray Squadron against control, it becomes a 3/3 as long as they don't have a unit on the board, so it's getting it for more damage. And then against other decks, it forces my opponent to think, and it causes my opponent to make mistakes because they're trying to figure out who to put 2 damage on, right? So it sets up knockouts, because what you want to do with Luke most of the time is play defense early against aggro decks. So Gray Squadron helps me to play defense by them putting damage in certain places, and helps me to kill things quicker so that I can stabilize around the Luke flip turn and take over the game with Vigilance and Luke Skywalker. And then you get Sundari Peacekeeper, which is a very cool card. Turn 2 play, it becomes a 3/5 when it attacks. Um, you can give experience tokens to it with Obi-Wan. I definitely think it's going to be really good in like a Rey deck because it can be given 2 experience tokens and become a 5/7 on attack pretty easily in that deck. But I like it in here as well for the restore and just for its 5 HP. And then you can put a shield on it with Luke pretty easily. Then we have Razor Crest, which I spoke about this before in the video I did on this deck, but Razor Crest is just such a good card. It has good stats. It's a 3/4. It gets back my Luke Lightsaber or my Devotion if I need it to. It's definitely stronger in like a Mandalorian deck as far as that synergy goes, but it's still very useful in here. Getting back a Luke's Lightsaber is amazing. Even Devotion, getting back a Devotion is amazing. And then it has Restore 2. So it's just a great way to stabilize against aggro and take out their space units. Then we play 2 of the modded cohort, which always has ambush, which is better than the escort skiff, and has raid 2, so it immediately ambushes in and kills something on the ground that is a problem for us against aggro. Then we have 2 of the Adelphi Patrol Wing, which is another new card. When you played, you may attack with a unit, so it's like a Fleet Lieutenant in space as long as we have the initiative, and then it's a 4/6 in space for 5 resources, which is very strong stats for 5 resources. And then in the sideboard, we have 1 copy of Rule with Respect. It says a friendly unit captures each enemy non-leader unit that attacked your base this phase. So I haven't actually used that card yet, but I feel like it's going to be very good against aggro. It might need to be a 2 of in the sideboard. A friendly unit captures each enemy non-leader unit that attacked your base this phase. That just seems bonkers against aggro. That might actually just need to be 2 copies. And then I put one of the, I cannot read it, Aquinatus Assault Cruiser, which is an 8 resource spaceship with 7/8 stats that has ambush. And then when you attack and defeat a non-leader unit, you can put that unit into play as a resource. I'm not sure if that card needs to be in here, but I just liked it. It's probably just going to be a second copy of Rule with Respect, since we already have pretty expensive flyers, but I just felt like, you know, it might be a card that becomes useful in Luke as we get more and more space units that become more relevant in the metagame with more cards being released. So I just felt like that card might be really good. But Rule with Respect absolutely probably needs to be 2 of. So have to figure out what, for the time being, though, would be the Assault Cruiser to take that out. The next one that I'm super excited about is CAD Bane Green. I just did a video on this one. This one is so much fun. And again, I put the Gamorrean Guards in the sideboard this time. I don't think you need them. I think that 4 LOM solves that problem for you. Having a turn 3 ambush unit that's a 4/4 is just, I think so many decks are going to have that now. And then it has the synergy with Zuckuss. So, and I don't even, if you notice, I don't even have Darth Vader in here. I don't think you need it. Zuckuss and 4 LOM are turn 3 and turn 4 plays as opposed to turn 6 plays or turn 5 plays if you get a resupply. They're just earlier, lower to the ground, and they're very strong units that get stronger with each other, but they're also each strong in their own right. And then this deck is just really, really cool because of the overwhelming barrage and the Bosk synergy with CAD Bane. And just every time you play an Underworld unit, you're damaging your opponent's units. So you almost want to go second when you play this deck, so you should make sure that you can damage a unit right away on turn 1. And you can also potentially ECL something in on turn 1 to kill something with the damage from CAD Bane as well. But it's a super fun deck. I really enjoy this deck. I think it's very, very good. But this is a very good starting point for this deck. And then in the side, we play a couple of the Bazine Natal for hand disruption. I think the other card that I had in there was Body Rook, a couple in the Gamorrean Guard space. So I think that would be probably a good idea to put a couple of the Body Rook in that spot. I think I put the Sentinel there just for now, just in case I feel like I need it against aggro, but I don't know. I think you have a very strong matchup against aggro. You have Shoot First and McClunky early. You have Surprise Strikes that can kill just about anything, and then You have Barrage to clean up the mess. You have 4 LOM turn 3 to come in. And then if it survives, you have Zuckuss the next turn to clean up the mess. You also have Steadfast Battalion to clean up the mess. You have Bosk to clean up the mess. And then you have Darth Maul to clean up anything that's left over, clean up the trash, and then just win the game. Such a fun deck. Has a lot of potential. But yeah, I mean, I think in that spot, it's for me, it's either Gamorrean Guard or Body Rook, depending on what decks show that they are more difficult as this meta evolves. But the next one, oh my goodness, this deck is a ton of fun. I literally just played this deck and got 32 damage on turn 3 on my opponent's base. And I was against a Sabine, so they were damaging us both a little bit. But so that would have been what, 29 damage that I did to them by turn 3. And that was what was it? It was a turn 1 Death Star Stormtrooper plus turn 1 Hylobun Enforcer. I activated Hylobun Enforcer, swung in for 3. Then turn 2, I got a 5th brother, so I swung in for 6 more. So I got up to 9. Then I played 5th brother, swung in for 5. Plus the Sabine triggers, we were at 16 because of the additional 2 damage that Sabine did to itself. Then on turn 3, I attacked in. They killed my Stormtrooper. Otherwise, I would have gotten 32 damage by myself without the pinging from Sabine. And then I swung in. Well, I played a Fallen Lightsaber on 5th brother and damaged it again. And it swung in for 9, I think. So I got up to 29 damage by myself on turn 3. So just crazy, man. But I mean, there's a couple different scenarios where you can get 30 damage by turn 3. But yeah, I did win the game on turn 3 against Sabine, by the way. That was confusing. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that this deck could do that. So I did this in version 3 here. I have a second version that was in the video that I had posted before. In version 3 here, I focused a little bit more on the bounties. So I put in 3 guild target and 2 top target in the main board just to have a little more synergy with Jango Fett, because you already have the client that can create bounties. But I like that these bounties are very, very cheap, so you can play them alongside a unit. And that's what you always want to be playing, units in this deck. And then the bounties give us the synergy with Jango Fett, where we can, you know, have a 6/6 with Overwhelm that also gets to draw a card. And then it also has the synergy with Chrysanthemum, where it comes in active. So then that's really cool, because then Chrysanthemum comes in, swings in for 3, and then you use Grand Inquisitor's ability and activate Chrysanthemum again. And then Chrysanthemum will do 2 damage to a ground unit if you didn't attack a unit the first time you attacked with it that turn. So this deck is super, super aggressive. If your opponent doesn't slow you down, you're just going to run them over. The 3 Fallen Lightsabers have been absolutely amazing in this deck. And this particular one, I did take out the Imperial, what is it, the 4 resource red Imperial, I can't remember the name of it at the moment, the one that does 3 damage in space when it's played. I just felt like I didn't need it. And I mean, it doesn't activate off of Inquisitor's ability. And like I said, I focused a little bit more on the bounty, so I took out those 2 space units for 2 of the top target. Just another way to gain life, too. But yeah, this one is super fun. If you haven't tried this one out yet, like, goodness gracious, it's fast. And the sideboard, like, the sideboard is a rough draft. Let's just be real. Like, it's a lot of more expensive things, as you see, because we have all the cheap things in this deck. This deck is built to run over everybody right now. So you're bringing in like those cards for very, very specific matchups. A lot of it's for control. And some of those cards might be different as the meta evolves, depending on what starts to be the strongest decks. And I mean, against Boba Cunning, like, which we know is going to be one of the strongest decks, I just want to have as many units on the field as possible. So like, this is like where I'm at right now is probably where I want to be. Maybe bring in a couple of Vanquish, but I think being as low to the ground and trying to go as wide as possible is the way to go against them. And then the last deck is Fenic Red. I just did a video on this deck. This deck is a ton of fun. I definitely check that video out first of all, but this deck is just what I love about this deck, and I spoke about it in the video, is just it has a lot of unique units that can do a lot of cool things. You have a lot of card draw on here with Ezra, with Black 1, with Zori Bliss in the sideboard. You are an aggro deck that doesn't run out of cards. Then you have 4 Cause I Believe in to set up your draws. You can go wide early with Cartel and Greedo and Leia. Ketsu Anyu is really sweet at like removing shields or removing experience tokens. And getting pumped up with Red 3. It becomes a 4-3 is awesome. Or 4-2, I'm sorry. I mean, you still have Falcon. Rogue Operative is awesome. The Saboteur of Ketsu Anyu, Rogue Operative, and Fennec is all very good for dealing with things that have shields. K2SO becomes insane in here because you can ambush it in 3 times in a game. You can also sneak attack it or heroic sacrifice it, which is crazy. Kira is one of the new cards as well. I really like this card. I think it's good against just about everything. I think you take it out against aggro most likely and put in the L337 if you're getting units captured that you have to deal with. But otherwise, I mean, it's even against aggro, it's still good, just making things more expensive so they can't play things on curve. And then the fact that it can ambush in and trade favorably because it's a 3-5 with a lot of units on the ground. So Poe Dameron, of course, is the MVP of this deck. Just an insane card. It's good at everything. It's good against everything. It's good at closing the game out to sneak attack. You can sneak attack Heroic Sacrifice for 10 or sneak attack Surprise Strike for 11 out of nowhere, which is an incredible way to come back. It's also an incredible way just to close the game out. It's good against control because you can get them to discard a card from their hand, or you can defeat an upgrade. Just, you know, as a defensive unit, Poe can attack and kill a unit and do 2 damage to another unit and kind of set up knockouts or clean up the mess. So it's just an amazing card. It's so versatile, which is one of the reasons that this deck is so much fun, is like even K2SO is versatile, right? Like you can either do 3 damage to their face or you can get them to discard a card. So, you know, those two combined, like there's a lot of hand disruption here, not to mention you have Spark of Rebellion that you bring in against control and mid-range in the sideboard. Then we have the black 1, 2 in the main and 1 in the side just to draw a lot of cards. And also synergizes with Poe to replenish our hand so we could discard cards again if we need to. And then Zori Bliss, of course, is another way to draw cards that we're bringing against mid-range and control. It's a 4-7, so it has good stats, trades well with things, and it's harder to kill and gives us card advantage. And then Wrecker, of course, is literally a wrecking ball. Like when you just play it on its own, you can get rid of a resource, do 5 damage to a ground unit. If you sneak attack it in, you can do both, where you ambush, or you can clean up, you can swing in for 7 damage just alone for 5 resources. But if, let's say, you sneak attack in to kill a unit because you're behind, you kill a unit and then do 5 damage to another unit. So it just comes in as a wrecking ball. Such a fun deck. Definitely give this one a shot as well. These are my 5 decks from the new set that I am looking forward to the most. Vader Green is another one. I just haven't put together that list yet. So that will be one I will do soon. I just did a video on Vader Green though, like from set 1, like maybe less than 2 weeks ago. So that's just why I haven't messed around with that deck yet. But that's another one I'm super excited about. I'm also super excited about Palp Yellow. I think that deck gets even better, especially because of all the cunning cards that are coming out. And I think I've already started to work on a list with the 4 LOM in that list in the Zuckus. So I think that deck is going to be a force to be reckoned with as well, because of the change of heart play of stealing their unit, attacking with it, and then killing it with Palp is just an incredible play. Not to mention you have Overwhelming Barrage, which is one of the best cards in the game. So I think that deck's going to be very strong, and I think that deck has a good matchup against Boba Cunning. So or at least a somewhat favorable one. So, but as always, please like and subscribe, and make sure to comment on the 1,000 subscriber giveaway page, where we'll be giving away the Darth Vader and the Boba Fett units, as well as some other cards for the 2 lucky winners. Also, just so you guys know, and this is really just about getting to the numbers, but once we get to 2,500 subscribers, I'll be giving away a booster box. So I haven't really mentioned that yet, but I'm still trying to get to 1,000. So once we get to 2,500, which will hopefully happen sooner rather than later, I will be giving away a booster box of Spark of Rebellion. So some sweet giveaways, just got to get these subscriber numbers up. But I appreciate all the support thus far. But yeah, those are the decks for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you want to see more content like this. It's a little different. No gameplay, like I said, I don't have as much time to record. But as always, y'all have a good one, and peace out.